When one woman's arrogance meets a united neighborhood, chaos and courage ensues. They say pride comes before a fall. But in this neighborhood, pride came with a title, a badge of self-importance, and a mission to control everyone else. Today, the weekly neighborhood outing was supposed to be a joyful escape, a simple bus trip filled with laughter, chatter, and the warm excitement of friends and neighbors gathering to share a sunny afternoon. Families had gathered, children chattering, elders sharing jokes, and everyone carefully loading their belongings into the bus for the journey ahead. The air was light with anticipation, and the promise of a carefree day seemed perfectly intact until she arrived. HOA Karen, infamous in the community for her relentless enforcement of rules nobody else seemed to follow, stormed into the scene, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement. Her face twisted with that familiar mix of arrogance and irritation. She scanned the crowd with disdain, her eyes locking onto a man about to board the bus, and she launched into her decree. Only certain people are allowed here. You cannot go. You don't belong. The words cut through the cheerful noise like a siren, freezing people mid-step. Gasps echoed among the neighbors. Children clutched their parents' hands while adults instinctively took a step back. Shock was palpable, and for a moment, the festive energy of the outing seemed to dissipate into tension. The man looked confused, hurt, and humiliated, while the rest of the neighborhood hesitated, unsure how to respond to her brazen exclusion. Karen, sensing the hesitation, raised her voice further, turning red with fury, waving her arms and threatening to call the authorities. She tried to intimidate the group, insisting that everyone obey her arbitrary rules, her face flushed with self-righteous anger, expecting total compliance. But the neighborhood, long tired of her petty authority, had been quietly observing, and something inside them shifted. Instead of retreating, a few brave voices spoke up, challenging her unjust command. The man she had tried to exclude was now supported by multiple neighbors, their collective presence forming a quiet but powerful shield against her bullying. Karen's fury escalated as she realized her dominance was being questioned, yet the community held firm. Parents encouraged their children to stay calm. The elderly exchanged knowing looks, and the group began boarding the bus in unison, each step a subtle rebellion against her tyranny. Her protest grew louder, almost comically desperate, as the bus driver maintained his calm, door open, and ready to depart. She called the police, certain that external enforcement would restore her imagined control. But technology and foresight worked against her. Several neighbors had already started recording, capturing her threats and over-the-top behavior on video. The scene became a tense standoff. On one side, Karen screaming and flailing. On the other, a united community refusing to back down, their voices measured but unwavering. Children clung to their parents, watching adults stand up not with fists, but with solidarity. The bus hummed with life, the engine ready, the passengers prepared, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Karen's attempts to assert authority were systematically undermined by evidence and the undeniable presence of community support. Even as she shouted, waving her arms and calling for intervention, it was clear the balance of power had shifted. By the time law enforcement arrived, calm had been restored on the bus. But Karen was still fuming, demanding action and justice that simply wasn't there. Witnesses recounted the truth. She had overstepped, threatened unjustly, and tried to manipulate rules for her own gain. The officers, reviewing the situation, found no grounds for her complaints, dismissing her claims entirely. Her authority evaporated in the face of facts, and the neighborhood watched as the person who tried to control everyone else faced the consequences of her own hubris. As the bus finally pulled away, laughter returned, albeit cautious, the crowd relieved, yet energized by the victory. Karen, left behind on the curb, glared as the bus disappeared into the distance, a stark reminder that power imposed through fear is fleeting, especially when confronted by unity and courage. The outing continued, filled with tentative cheer, and the man who had been targeted now received encouragement and respect. But the story was far from over. Karen, humiliated yet undeterred, had surely not given up. Somewhere in her mind, a plan was already forming, a way to regain control, setting the stage for the next confrontation that would once again test the patience, courage, and cleverness of the neighborhood. True power lies not in authority, but in the courage to stand together against injustice. The bus rolled down the quiet streets, sunlight reflecting off the windows and the murmurs of neighbors filling the air with renewed energy. The children laughed, breaking the tension that had gripped everyone only moments before, and conversations resumed as if the confrontation had been a minor interruption. Yet everyone remained quietly aware that Karen's presence had left a mark. Her attempts at exclusion and intimidation lingered like a shadow at the edge of the outing. Adults exchanged subtle glances, silently acknowledging the necessity of vigilance against her next move. Back on the sidewalk, Karen's anger simmered. She muttered to herself, pacing and trying to figure out how she could twist the events to regain the upper hand. Her calls to the police had failed. The video evidence and witness statements contradicted every accusation she made. The humiliation weighed heavily, yet her stubbornness prevented reflection. She blamed everyone but herself. Meanwhile, the neighborhood on the bus shared quiet stories of past incidents, comparing notes and building a sense of collective awareness. This outing, intended as a joyful escape, had turned into a subtle lesson in resilience and unity. By standing together, they had not only protected one of their own, but had also sent a message to Karen. Arbitrary authority and baseless exclusion would no longer be tolerated. The man she had tried to block, initially hesitant and embarrassed, now felt empowered. He joked with neighbors, laughed with the children, and contributed to the camaraderie that had only grown stronger after the confrontation. By the time the bus reached the park, the atmosphere had transformed from tense to triumphant. The picnic area buzzed with conversation, games, and laughter, a testament to the power of community solidarity. Karen, meanwhile, had become a topic of whispered commentary. How she tried to control, how she failed, and how the neighborhood had collectively resisted her antics. Discussions ranged from practical strategies for future outings to reflections on empathy, fairness, and the importance of supporting each other. As the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the park, a sense of accomplishment settled over the group. They had faced intimidation, documented evidence, and still maintained their dignity and freedom of movement. The children, oblivious to the underlying tensions, ran around the grass, their joy a symbol of victory over unnecessary cruelty. Karen's presence, though distant, continued to loom as a potential threat, reminding everyone that vigilance and solidarity are ongoing responsibilities. But in that moment, the neighborhood was united, proud of their collective courage, and inspired to continue supporting each other against any future attempts at arbitrary control. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the returning bus, and with each passing moment, the confidence of the community solidified. The outing was more than a trip. It was a victory, a demonstration of courage, and a living testament to the power of unity in the face of petty authority. Karen's shadow lingered, yes, but the light of togetherness outshone it, proving that fear and exclusion could never truly overcome a united and resilient neighborhood.